Hello class, in this video I'm going to show you how to solve multi-step equations. And the first thing that we have to do when we solve multi-step equations that require more than one step, would be to simplify both sides. And there's a little something we call like terms. Like terms are the terms that have the same variable, or if they have no variable, they are like terms as well. And eventually we're going to see that like terms could also have the same variable and the same exponent. But right now, let's go ahead and combine on the right side of the first equation here. 2 and 4 are like terms, so we combine them and we get 6. Again, 2 plus 4 makes 6. And then that negative 2d, we didn't do anything to it. And so we get negative 2d plus 6 on the right side equal to 12 on the left side. Now, since we're trying to solve for d here, we're going to go ahead and subtract 6 from both sides to isolate that negative 2d. And 12 minus 6 is 6. And we can solve this problem mentally here, and we say by asking the question, what number times negative 2 makes 6? Or we could go ahead and use inverse operations, and that inverse operation would be, let me change the color here. That inverse operation would be to divide by negative 2 instead of multiplying by negative 2. That way we get negative 2 divided by negative 2. A number divided by itself is 1, so that should be 1d. And 1d equals 6 divided by negative 2, which is negative 3. And so d, the value of d, is negative 3. If we needed to justify your steps, you would say here, you combine like terms or you simplify the right side, either way. To go from here to here, we subtract the 6 from both sides, and then to go from here to here, we divide it by negative 2 on both sides, and the answer is negative 3. You can go ahead and check your answer by substituting back into the original equations, but you could do that on your own. You could pause the video and do that on your own. Okay, so example 1b is the same, it's similar, but instead of combining just numbers, in this case we're going to combine the 5w and the 3w. And so here we're going to get 2w, because 5, think about it, as 5 apples minus 3 apples, you get 2 apples. We didn't do anything to that 4 yet. So, oops. So we write the rest of it the way it is. In order for us to isolate the w, we need to start by subtracting 4 from both sides instead of adding 4. That's the inverse operation. Negative 4 and negative 7 makes a total of negative 11. And then we divide both sides by 2. And the simplified answer would be just a negative 11 over 2. Fractions are perfectly okay as an answer. If you needed to justify your steps, we simplify the left side, or we combine like terms, either way. You can write it as like that, combine like terms on the left side. We then subtract the 4 to go from here to here, subtract 4 from both sides, and then finally divide both sides by 2, and that gives you your answer. All right, let's do a couple of more examples. I'll start with A, B, C, D. It should be D. I'll start with D because it's similar to B. 9z minus 4z. So we have 9 apples minus 4 apples. That gives us 5 apples. Don't forget, they used to have that 5 to bring down. And what if we add 5 to both sides, so we could leave that z by itself? We're going to get that 5z equals 0. The only way to multiply a number by 5 and get 0 is if that number is 0. So we know that the answer is going to be 0, but how do we show the work here? We could go ahead and just divide both sides by 5. And 0 divided by 5 is 0. And that's the answer. Okay, let's go ahead and do one that has fractions in it. The best way to do this, or one of the ways to do this, I should say, is by start by adding 5 to both sides. And you're going to get that f over 4 is equal to negative 4. And since we are dividing that f by 4, now the inverse operation would be to multiply by 4. Maybe I should have done that with a different color. Okay, and now we know that a number divided by itself is 1, so 4 divided by 4 is 1, and that'll give us f by itself. And then negative 4 times 4 makes 16, but it's negative. And this is the answer. There's another way to do part C, and I kind of like it better. So let me show you one more way of doing that. Hopefully I could fit it here. So think about this as a different problem, but I'm actually doing the same thing in a different way. Right? And so this other way, this other method, basically, because 4 is the only fraction, 4 is the only denominator, I can multiply everything by 4. And when I multiply the first number by 4, the 4's divide out and it gives me f by itself. Then I multiply 4 times 5 and I get negative 20. And then I multiply 9 times negative 9 times 4, which is negative 36. If we need to solve for f, we need to add 20 to both sides. And when you subtract, when you add negative 36 and 20, you get negative 16, which is the answer. So it's another way of doing it. It's up to you which way you like better and which one you want to use. It's just another way of doing part C. Okay, go ahead and pause this video as you need it to take notes, to review, to repeat, or rewind it, repeat it if you want to. Here's another example where we use the same idea, but now we get to apply it in geometry. In any triangle, all of the angles add up to 90 degrees. All of the angles of any triangle add to 180 degrees. Did I say 90? I probably did say 90 before. All of the angles of any triangle add up to 180 degrees. So here we know that 30 plus 9x plus 30 plus x must make 180 degrees. 180. Okay, so take a look at this equation. On the left side, we combine a lot of like terms. But notice what I did here, by the way. All I did was start here and then go around the triangle and then add up all the angles and set them equal to 180 degrees. So the like terms right here, we have 9 apples plus 1 more apple. If you want to think about it that way, we get a total of 10x, or 10 apples. And then 30 plus 30 makes 60. And don't forget that we have 180 on the right side. Go ahead and solve for x by subtracting 60 from both sides. We get 10x equals 120. And you can solve this mentally thinking about what number times 10 makes 120. That number must be 12, correct? But if you want to show the steps, which I strongly recommend, you want to divide both sides by 10. So that gives us x equals 12. Always make sense of your answers. If x equals 12, when you substitute that here, as an example, 30 minus 12 is 18. 18 degrees is a very small angle. According to a drawing, which is not drawn to scale, by the way, this is a relatively small angle, so that does make sense. Same thing here. If you substitute 12 here where the x is, 9 times 12 makes 108. That makes a big angle measuring more than 90 for sure. So our answer does make sense. This is the right answer. All right, keep practicing. Have a nice one.